I'm Olivia Vajrin.
My name is Jovenia Marvella Mamora.
My name is Aizul Hasanah.
I'm Jesika, Kamila, Cahya, Ningrat.
My name is Rizki Akbar.
I would like to explain our discussion regarding national interest that carried toward United States invasion of Iraq.
Hello, I want to present here about national interest. In general, national interests are the goals and ambition of the country, whether economy, military, or cultural. According to the mainstream flow in international relations studies, this concept is important as a basis for state in conducting international relations. To provide a more specific explanation of national interest, we have two basic theories in IR that have different views about the definition of national interest. The first is national interest according to realism must be seen from the interest of the state, because since 1648, state has been the highest political supremacy in society, and anarchism in international politics can only be overcome due to the state. The second is according to the view of liberalism, national interest lies not in state security but in economic and market stability, which must also be used as reference.
Hello everyone. I'd like to explain the United States invasion of Iraq, the explanation of what, where, when, and who. First off is what. What is the study case that we chose for this specific topic? We chose the U.S. invasion of Iraq, or we can call it Operation Desert Storm. It was launched by the United States with support from the United Kingdom and other allies, on the basis of claims that Iraq possessed weapons of mass destruction, or WMDs, and had links to terrorist groups that caused the 9/11 tragedy at the World Trade Center in New York City back in September 11, 2001. Which is the group called Al-Qaeda. It was just speculation at first. However, these claims were later found to be false, and the war has been widely criticized as a strategic and humanitarian failure. When? When was this war? The U.S. invasion of Iraq began on March 20, 2003, and lasted until December 8, 2011, with the withdrawal of the U.S. combat troops. Where? Where was this war happened? The war happened between the United States and Iraq, so it primarily took place in Iraq, which is located in Middle East. Who? Who are the subjects of this war? The decision to invade Iraq was made by the administration of President George W. Bush as the President of the United States, and it was primarily focused on toppling the regime of Saddam Hussein, who was the dictator of Iraq at the time. In addition, the US-led invasion of Iraq involved a coalition of several countries, including the UK, Australia, and Poland. The aftermath of the invasion, however, was marked by years of sectarian violence, insurgency, and instability, leading to the death of hundreds of thousands of Iraqis and thousands of US soldiers. The decision was to invade Iraq, and the subsequent consequences remain a subject of controversy and debate, with many arguing that the war was unnecessary, unjustified, and illegal under the international law. So, knowing that the speculation was wrong at first that the Iraq possessed WMDs, why did the US still invade Iraq and start a war? The question will be answered in the explanations later on by my friend Olive. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Olivia Vajrin. Here I would like to explain regarding the situation and action of the US invasion of Iraq. First, why would Iraq invasion of Kuwait conflict with US interests in the Middle East? There are some reasons regarding America's interest in the Middle East. First, access to oil, especially for domestic needs of the US and the needs of US allies in Europe and Japan. Second, protect defense Israel. And the third, maintain regional peace and security stability to promote political, economic, educational, and religious liberalization in the Middle East. And also, there's another reason why which Iraq's invasion of Kuwait conflict with U.S. interests in the Middle East. President Bush was worried that Saddam Hussein would add to his oil wealth from the Arab countries because Saddam Hussein would have the ability to manipulate world oil prices and hold foreign hostages for his political purpose. Here we can see situation and action the U.S. invasion of Iraq from August 3rd, 1990 until January 2nd, 1990. But on September 17, 1990, Saddam Hussein offered to negotiate through Deputy Prime Minister Tariq Aziz, but on September 21st, Saddam Hussein's peace offer was rejected by the US, and also on January 2nd, Saddam Hussein offered to negotiate again, but Saddam Hussein's offer was rejected by the US. Then, how did US make efforts to complete the invasion of Iraq in order to secure its national interests? There are two diplomatic efforts undertaken by the US. First, diplomacy in peaceful ways through diplomatic channels using bilateral and multilateral forums. And the second, violent diplomacy by threatening with military force if Iraq and Kuwait do not back down. Then, military operation carried out by the U.S.-led coalition forces under the codename Operation Desert Storm is the implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 6718. Here we can see there are two. Operation Desert Storm is divided into two phases, namely the stage of joint air attack operation and ground operation. So, through a very heavy battle between the coalition forces and the Iraq forces, virtually all of Kuwait was captured and the Iraq forces were able to be pushed back from Kuwait. The Desert Agency Operation 130 is the implementation of UN Security Council Resolution number 6780 as a result of collaboration and interdependence between US and UN in efforts to resolve the Iraq invasion case against Kuwait to restore international security and peace and also to protect safeguard US national interests.
I am Jesika Cahya Ningrat. I will explain the aftermath of the Iraq War. The aftermath of the Iraq War has been complex and multifaceted. The war lasted for 8 years, with US officially withdrawing its troops in 2011, but it has had ongoing effects both in Iraq and around the world. First, in Iraq, the war caused significant damage to infrastructure, including hospitals, schools, and homes. It also resulted in the displacement of millions of Iraqis, many of whom were forced to flee the neighboring countries. The conflict also contributed to the rise of sectarianism in Iraq, with Sunni and Shia groups becoming increasingly divided. Second, the war also created a power vacuum in the region, which was exploited by extremist groups like ISIS. The rise of ISIS has had far-reaching consequences, including a wave of terrorist attacks around the world and the displacement of millions of people. Third, humanitarian crisis. The Iraq War caused a humanitarian crisis in the country. It is estimated that more than 1 million Iraqis were killed and several million more were displaced as a result of the war. This led to a breakdown in the public health and sanitation service, which increased the spread of diseases. Fourth, economic costs. The war has been costly both in terms of human lives and financial resources. US spent over $2 trillion on the war, and this cost doesn't include the long-term care for veterans and interest on the debt incurred to pay for the war. The war also damaged Iraq's economy, leading to high levels of unemployment and poverty.
Hello everyone, my name is Aizul Hasanah, and here I want to continue the explanation regarding the aftermath of the United States invasion of Iraq. Okay, the fifth is political instability. The Iraq War caused political instability in the region, which has had ongoing consequences, and it weakened the power of the Iraqi government, leading to a rise in sectarianism and a growth in extremist groups. The war also had a destabilizing effect on neighboring countries, including Syria, which descended into civil war. The sixth is damage to U.S. reputation. The Iraq War had a significant impact on the U.S. reputation around the world. The war was widely seen as a violation of international law, and it damaged the U.S. credibility as a leader in promoting democracy and human rights. And the last is veterans' health and social issues. The Iraq War has had ongoing effects on the mental and physical health of U.S. veterans who served in the conflict. Many veterans have suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD and other mental health issues. And also, many veterans have struggled to reintegrate into civilian life and have experienced high levels of unemployment, homelessness, and social isolation.
Okay, so moving on to the conclusion. Why? The reason why our group chose this specific study case for the topic national interest that creates war is because the existing national interest of the United States in the Middle East has, as described as in the PPT, are first is oil. Israel and regional stability. In terms of oil interest, the United States does not want any single country in the Middle East to dominate oil reserves management and marketing. After all, as we know, Iraq is the second largest crude oil producer in OPEC after Saudi Arabia. Second, Israel is a very loyal ally of the United States in the Middle East, so it must always be protected. There is no country that can interfere. If there is a country that will interfere, then the United States will also intervene. Third, likewise, the issue of stability in the Middle East region has become a national interest itself of the United States of America, because a stable Middle East region will have positive impact on political, economic, educational, and religious liberations in the Middle East region. So it can threaten the national interest of the United States of America. In addition, these operations or this invasion, or we called Operation Desert Storm, is the success of the United States to carry out the mandate of the United Nations Security Council in accordance with Resolution 678. All processes in resolving the Iraqi invasion case against Kuwait, as described above, show the existence of cooperation between the United States and the United Nations. Since the United States has the veto power in UNSC, meaning the US has great and more privilege in this war.
I'm going to explain about our critical opinion regarding our case study. The first one is the use of the veto by the United States so that the United Nations mandate the use military force to launch an invasion of Iraq is unjustifiable because the US exert pressure, inducement, and even bribes so that all permanent members of the United Nations agree. And then the second one is the invasion carried out by the US looks like the selfishness of the US in defending its national interests. And the third one is, if seen from its history, the US invasion of Iraq cannot be separated from World War I and II. And the last of our critical opinion is the US attempt to expel Iraq from Kuwait is very dependent on the UN Security Council because the US needs to mandate of the UN Security Council to use its military force against Iraq.
Audio Jungle.